Howdy all. We're going to spend some time today going through a retrieval practice strategy using a tool referred to as Anki, A-N-K-I. Now this is a free downloadable flashcard set, which is obviously digital, which allows you to be able to manipulate and create your own flashcards really quickly with a level of detail that you're ideally after, and also allows you to be able to go back and recall this information at program periods. So we know that retrieval practice is the most effective way of being able to remember and learn. And so if you employ the use of this particular system throughout your time at the college, then your outcomes at the end of each particular semester, but I would argue at the end of the program, will be improved as well. So what I'd like you to do is start out by typing this particular address into your browser, Anki Web, and it will take you to this particular site. And then if you click on download Anki, then depending on what you're using, whether you're using Windows or Mac or anything else, it allows you the opportunity of downloading that. Once you've actually downloaded that, you're then asked to load it into your apps on your computer, on your facility, and I'll get you to actually do that. Once you've done that, what you will then get, and I've downloaded it already, is, well, you'll start out with a blank slate here. Yeah, I've obviously been looking at putting some different material in here. But you'll start out with a blank scenario here. And then what you do, you're aiming to create a new deck. And I'd suggest creating a new deck via your subject area. So I'm going to start a new deck here. And, down here, create deck. I'm going to start a new deck here and title it, let's say, Anatomy. Now, I'm doing this for dhubs 2, but I've already created a dhubs 2 location, and so I'll start out, or for the purposes of the shoot, I will create this particular deck named Anatomy. So we create a new deck named Anatomy. Now, I'll click on that deck, and it's saying, congratulations, you've finished this deck for now. That's because I haven't created any actual any flashcards in there. So I'm going to create a new flashcard. Now, there's a range of different ways that you can create the flashcards, and I'm going to leave that up to you to actually go and explore that by yourself, should you so choose. But I'm just going to start out with the basic one, right? So on the front, I'm going to have a question that says what type of vertebrae is this? And then I'm actually going to insert a diagram, and I apologise about this as I move around a little bit, but I'm going to insert this particular diagram. No, I might do this one, this particular diagram in here as well. Now, the answer to this one, you know, is really easy. We've got a really long spinous process. It's posterior inferior at around about 45 degrees, so that's going to be a thoracic vertebra. All right, so I'm going to add that to my actual deck itself, yeah? Add that one to my deck itself. I'll go back to my deck, and you see now that I've got one new card sitting inside of that deck. And I've got a couple of options now. I can go and study that now, or I can add another one. So I'm going to keep adding to this for the moment, and I'm going to choose a different picture. What is this vertebrae, and explain why. And again, I'm going to go and get a different image here. Now this one you know is also, where did my question go? Where did my question go? There it is. Let's get rid of this. Now, this is also a thoracic vertebrae, but it's really common when you first start out with anatomy for you to be able to identify a particular vertebrae from a lateral view, but not from a superior view. So the advantage of this particular program is it enables you to start challenging yourself in regards to the types of questions that you're likely to get on an exam. So we know this is also a thoracic vertebrae, but I've also asked myself why. And what I can actually do is then just add the slide that explains the reason on it to, I can add that to the actual deck itself. So I'm going to add that one now. And then I'm going to go back to Anki. Yeah, now Anki then allows me, and I'm not going to add any more. I think you've worked that out fairly easily by yourself. But I'm now going to go and study those cards, right? And so the first one I've got here is what type of vertebrae is this one? Now I can either hit show answer or hit return on my deck. And but I know this is a thoracic vertebrae. We know we've got the costal facets here and the costal facets here. But it's this that's a dead giveaway, isn't it? This posterior, inferior, medial, long spinous process, which identifies this particular vertebrae as a thoracic vertebrae. So I'm going to show answer here. Now, so I've told myself it's a thoracic vertebrae. Now down here, this is key. What this allows you to do is program Anki to allow you to revisit this particular question again in a minute, or in 6 minutes, or in 10 minutes, or in 4 days. So I look at this scenario and go, well, this is really easy. And so if I clicked on easy here, this card then wouldn't become available to me again for 4 days. If I click here, less than 1 minute, then it's going to be become available to me in less than 1 minute again. So you can actually program the system to prompt you in regards to how frequently you want to see those respective cards. Now, again, as I mentioned before, often when you're starting out with anatomy, for example, anatomy of the spine, you can see a lateral view and identify a vertebrae really easily, or you can be given that, for example, in an exam, a superior view or a lateral or an anterior view, and that becomes a bit more challenging. And so, again, this particular system offers you the opportunity of being able to put together your own flashcards quickly and easily in a manner that assists you with prompting, challenging questions, which are typical of the types of questions you'll likely get in an exam. Now, remember I said to you, I can then go ahead and include a whole range of information in the answer that alerts me to the answer. Let's say I look at this and I go, hey, I don't know whether this is cervical, I don't know whether it's thoracic, I don't know whether it's lumbar, so let's show me the answer. Well, what I've done here is put in the card that explains it all. So for a typical thoracic vertebrae, the body is heart-shaped, and that's a heart-shaped body. The vertebral foramen is circular. The transverse processes are long and strong, and so on. Yeah? And so I've got the ability then, if I am unable to answer the question, to provide myself with a level of detail that enables me to learn. And then again, I looked at that and went, well, I didn't know which one it was, so I'm going to hit, I want that again in 1 minute. Now, obviously 1 minute's passed, because I've got this one available to me again, yeah? And so I could keep going back and forth depending on the time frame that I actually allocate to see those cards again. I'm going to go back to my decks here, and what you will see is that because I've programmed the deck to come back in a minute, it's not going to be due likely until the next day, typically 24 hours. But because I've set it in less than a minute, if I click on this, I can go and study it again right now. If, however, I'd put 4 days in it, then I wouldn't have an option here to go and learn again. This would all come up 0, and this would all come up 0. Yeah? And so, as I've mentioned to you, I've got the ability to go back and study that material frequently or less frequently. D-Hubs 2, I've programmed that to come back at me fairly consistently. Study now, what are the 5 key functions of skeletal muscle? That's a really common question, isn't it? So movement obviously is one, and so I go down and go, oh, hang on, I'm struggling to come up with the other 5. Actually, I don't think this is skeletal muscle. I reckon I've done this incorrect. I reckon it is skeletal structures. So if I show the answer, yeah, that should have been, so this should be the skeletal system. So that's my fault. But we know support, protection, movement, blood cell production, and mineral storage, yeah? Definitely didn't get it. This one's given me a less than 10-minute option. Now, the reason that is because it's been sitting there for a while. Yeah, the new card, I'm given an option of coming back within a minute. But a card that I've created already, the minimum amount of time it's going to allow me to come back is within 10 minutes, but I'm going to come back from that. Well, we know we have got both organic and inorganic material and water as part of the bone matrix. So let's have a look at that again. Water, organic and inorganic material, but I didn't get it, so I'm going to come back again in 10 minutes. What is the epiphysis? It's the flattened area at the end of bone. Let me show the answer. And I've been able to put that in, haven't I? Rounded ends of long bone. Articular cartilage covers the end of long bone. And again, I didn't get it, so I'm going to come back to it. All right, so I'm going to go back to my decks and I have a look at my decks again. Now, because I've been putting, I want to see them really frequently, then within a really short period of time, I'm going to be able to go back and look at those cards relatively quickly. If I click on a card, I think I've explained this to you, but I'll do it again. If I click on a card and go show the answer, if I hit easy, then I'm not going to see that card again for 5 days. And so I can program Anki to prompt me whenever I want. So this is brilliant. Like it's just a fantastic system, and it's free. Now the other thing that you can do is sync it with your phone. Here's the caveat though. For Android users, the app is free, but for Apple users, the app is $40. So that's up to you as to whether you want to download it onto your phone or not. For Android users, I think it's a no-brainer. For Apple users, you might need to think about it. But of course, this gives you the option, especially if you've got it on your phone. But even if you don't, yeah, if you've just got it on your computer and you're sitting on a tram, sitting on a train, you are waiting for somebody to meet you at a cafe and you've got a spare 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it might be, then it's easy just to open up Anki and start reviewing different subject areas in a manner which has been aligned for you. All right, I'm going to leave it there.